But the basic notion is that while we're used to seeing blogs displayed in a browser, in order to really start working with these data sources, we do have to get a little bit of an understanding of what's happening under the hood. And that means understanding the basics of what an RSS feed really is. And one way to do that is to just take the text of an RSS feed, paste it into a text editor, and sort of peruse it. And you'll quickly see that there is a pattern and a structure to what that is. And the reason there is a pattern and a structure is because machines need patterns and structures in order to know what to do with data. They're not as smart as us. So I'm just going to put that text file aside now. I don't know if that's shown up for you or not, but that's okay. We don't need to look at it anymore. And then another way that we're used to looking at RSS feeds, I've just opened up Google Reader. I don't know if you're seeing that now. But if you use an RSS reader, what is an RSS reader but a program that, like the programs I've been talking about, it's been designed in such a way that it knows what to do with that structured machine-readable code. And so it also gives us a human-readable view of that content. It's different than going to look at the blog because all it's doing is showing us the data that's in the feed, whereas the blog shows us a whole lot more. But it's a streamlined way for us to kind of consume that text out of the blog. So 3 different kind of views of what RSS does, from the blog to the raw text view of the feed to looking at it in a reader which is designed to actually express the data in that text file. Are there any questions before I go any further? So now I'm going to go back to Yahoo Pipes. Hopefully, are you seeing my Yahoo Pipes interface now? Okay, so I'm going to go to Yahoo Pipes, and right here you can see pipes that I've created, and I've done a couple for today. I'm going to start with this one. I'm calling it the Yahoo Pipes Extravaganza. So I'm just going to click the name of that pipe. And when you open up a pipe like this in Yahoo Pipes, what it shows you first is actually the output of the pipe. So this is what I'm getting out of the pipe that I've created. What I want to do, and where you actually all the fun happens, is I'm going to go in and edit what's called the source of the pipe. And that's going to bring up what you should be seeing now, which is just a visual editor for working with Yahoo Pipes. In the main area, I've got kind of a grid background where I can drag elements from the left-hand side. Over on the left-hand side, I have a menu of all different elements that I can add to a Yahoo pipe. I can drag them over to the right, and then I can use these little connectors to join things together. And at the bottom is probably the most useful piece of this interface. This is, they call it the debugger. I always have trouble getting it to open. And what it does is it's a place for you at any point while you're developing a pipe to check your work. So I'm going to start today by doing something fairly simple. We're going to start with something fairly simple. What I did last night is I actually created a Google spreadsheet in which I put some information about Yahoo Pipes. If you've worked with Google spreadsheets, you know it's just like working with Excel. So I created a couple of columns, a title and a description. And as it turns out, Google spreadsheets can be exported as RSS feeds. So the first thing I did is I went ahead and I dragged this fetch feed element over, which gave me this box. Get rid of that extra one. And in the URL field, I pasted the feed of my Google spreadsheet, RSS feed. And down at the bottom, you'll see that whenever I have a box highlighted in my debugger, I get a view of my output. So what this is showing me is the data that's in this feed. I have four items in my feed. The first one is called What is Yahoo Pipes? And I can open it up. There's a little arrow there that I can expand. And this allows me, by opening all of these various arrows, to sort of drill down into the code of the feed. And what it's showing me is all of those structured elements that I was looking at in the text file are being exposed to me here now within the Yahoo Pipes interface. So I see what is Yahoo Pipes. It has a value, which is a URL associated with the spreadsheet, a description. Are you seeing this? And whatever element highlighted in orange on the top you're working with in Yahoo Pipes, that's the output that you will see in the debugger down at the bottom. So right now what it's just showing me is at this point in my pipe I've brought in a feed and in the debugger I can see what that feed contains. And what's nice is that it does allow me to see every kind of attribute of that feed, the title of the feed, the publication date of the feed, and not just what the values are, but what that attribute is called. And that becomes important as you work more with the pipe. So this is nice, and I've pulled in a feed, but all I'm really doing, I'm not doing anything here. I'm just pulling in a feed, and I've dragged this tube over to my pipe output. And so all my pipe output is really a duplicate of that incoming feed, which isn't terribly useful, right? So I want to do something a little bit more fun, so I'm going to cut that connection. And I'm going to pull up another element that I added in here last night. This is a sub-element. I'm going to show you what this does. This will give you some idea of sort of how we're working with the data. So I'm going to connect the feed to this sub-element object, and then I'm going to connect that sub-element object to the pipe output. So here's my feed highlighted in orange, and I have my 4 items. What is Yahoo Pipes? What kind of data does Yahoo Pipes work with? Those are down here in my debugger. I'm going to go to the next item in my pipe, which is my sub-element, and you'll notice that my debugger has now changed. I'm not seeing the same thing anymore. I'm still seeing 4 items, but the titles are gone. They've been replaced with just numbers, holding numbers. And if I expand them, the only thing that's in them is a content attribute. Are you seeing that? Okay. And the reason is because I've essentially filtered everything out of my feed. I started with my feed with everything. I added this sub-element, and I told it to just grab out of that parent feed the attribute item.description, which I happen to know is the content of the actual item in the RSS feed. So I'm sort of honing in on the thing that I'm most interested in my feed. And I'm left with just one element now, which is the content. And now my pipe output no longer contains everything in the feed. So the sub-element object in a Yahoo pipe is a way to sort of focus in on a specific piece of a feed that you want to do something with. So that's fine, but that's not terribly useful either. I don't know what I would want a feed that just contains, the content piece of those items, because I've lost everything else and I'm not doing anything with it. So at this point, and really what I'm showing you now aren't necessarily practical applications, but more what the different elements within Yahoo Pipes allow you to do. And the sub-element one is one that you might use a lot.